So I want to welcome everybody to the Navigating Online Sales webinar. I'm Jessica Renane with the Hoosier Young Farmers Coalition. I'll be your host for today, letting folks in and helping moderate any questions you have later on. Before we get started, I want to thank our partners from both IU and Purdue. We could not have done this without them, and their help in organizing and marketing and spreading the word and getting folks to know that we were hosting these has been really just instrumental in getting the projects off the ground. And we also wouldn't be here without a grant from SARE. They're definitely the ones funding this whole project and allowing us to bring these farmers in the middle of a very busy June to spend some time with us and share their stories. So we want to thank SARE for their support as well. We are recording this webinar so folks can watch it who couldn't join us today, or you can watch it afterwards if you would like. If you missed anything, they're hosted on our YouTube page, and we'll be sending that link out as we complete more of these so that you can watch this or any of the other webinars we've done over the past couple of weeks. So today we're joined by Eric and Harold, and I'm going to turn the presenting over to Eric from Muddy Fork Bakery, and he's going to go ahead and take it away. Thanks so much, everyone.
Hello, I'm Eric Shedler. I'm the owner of Muddy Fork Bakery in Bloomington, Indiana. So we're not a farm, but we do most of our business, or used to do most of our business, through our farmers market. So I hope that what I have to share with you will be relevant for those who are in farming, just in terms of the sales process and how our business works. So we, until the pandemic hit, we did probably 80 to 85% of our business directly to customers through a single farmers market in Bloomington. And our market closed and opened and with restrictions, and we went, within about a week, we'd set up an online store. We're using Square Up, which is also the credit card processor. I think that's a pretty popular option for folks who are accustomed to selling at a market, to take orders ahead of time and you can use it to do deliveries, you can use it to do on-farm or curbside pickup kind of options, and you can use it to do like no contact pickup at another location. A lot of options there. We saw a really big spike in interest in home deliveries. I know CSAs are seeing the same thing, and farm stores are also doing well. So we've made some connections with little local farms that have stores in-house. I'm going to share with you some of the features in Square that I'm not going to explain the whole thing, how to use it, but if you do adopt it, there are a few things that are important to know that might take a while to find on your own. So let me turn that over here. I think my general recommendation about Square is that it's sort of a quick and dirty way to get an online shopping experience up. It's not terribly customizable. It doesn't do everything, but it's very easy to set up. It will only take a couple of hours to set up, depending how many products you have. So here we go. I'm going to start my screen share, and I'm going to show you a few things. If I can move this out of my way here. All right, so this is what our website looks like. It's kind of early 2010s. We need to update it, but we just put in a very big link to our online store, which is not hosted within our website because it's hosted through Square. So you click on that link, visit our online store, and we go to our Square site. You can have a front page for your Square site, and we and other vendors have found it useful to use that to put like general instructions, because the whole experience isn't that customizable. There's a few things that aren't really set up for people who vend only once or twice a week. I think that's one of the big things. So I have these instructions on here that you need to order by Wednesday, because otherwise people won't know. And if you don't change settings, people will think they can order later than that, and it will give them an automated pickup day that may not be correct. So have that, then you go to your ordering button, and Square is set up now with pickups or deliveries. So we have both of those activated. I'll do pickup because I don't have to enter my information. Then in here, you can categorize your different items that you have for sale, and then you have the big list in here. You can click on anything. Shopping's pretty easy. Let's see some of the things that I wanted to show you. So for people who vend at a farmer's market, you might be interested in shutting down and opening your online store at different days of the week. Like if you want to get all your orders in by a certain day and you don't want people ordering after that point, one option for you, here's the back end, is that you can just simply turn it on and off. And let's see, that is in your settings. So you go to settings and checkout. I guess that's the page I'm already on. Accept online orders. You can just turn it on or off at that spot. That's one way to control the flow of your orders through the week. If you say vend on a Saturday market and you want people to order between Monday and Thursday, you can just turn it off the other days of the week and then turn it back on. Let's see, the other way that you can control this, these are some of the biggest problems that vendors have had with it, is there are store hours in here. So I'm gonna go to pickup and delivery, and you can do multiple locations. I haven't activated the other one. You can accept pickup or delivery or just one of them, and you can set your hours. So here on the right side, because we do all our sales on Saturday, I have set the hours to say that we're closed all days except Saturday. And then when people order, it's going to tell them that their order is available the nearest Saturday. Unless I change the order prep time, which is what I do after I've closed my current week of sales. So instead of just switching the whole thing off, after my current week orders close, I go and I change my prep day to one business day, and that makes all new orders pop up with the pickup time the whole week later, because that's my next business day. That's a little complicated, but that's a pretty useful feature. And then I have to remember to change it back to being available immediately after Saturday. Let's see, how else do I use this? I send a weekly email. Now, let me see if it's available in here. Campaign has been sent, so. Sorry, I thought I had logged into this so I would be able to open it quickly. If you're doing online sales and you want to drive people there every week, then it's a good idea to send a reminder every week. So we send an email once a week. To make it efficient, we do mostly the same email every week, but I just have one section where I write something new, so there's something to read in there. So I'm going to show you my most recent email. Oh, wow. Let me see if there's another way to do this. Sorry, folks. I didn't think it would be that difficult to open. I just turned off my sharing for a little bit because I got to go into my wife's personal email to find a copy of the most recent email that we sent. While I'm looking for that, does anyone have questions they want to ask?
I'll ask one. Can you guys hear me all right?
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. This is Liz. I'm a livestock farmer, but we use Square for checkout at the farmer's market. And so I've wondered about doing a very basic Square store for pre-order. Right now we're just using a Google form and then people pay at market. I'm curious, the system you're using, is there a additional fee other than just the checkout, 3% or whatever it is, to be using the sorts of tools you're using?
No, there isn't, although they're going to implement a 50 cent per delivery order charge. So you'd have to pay an extra 50 cents for each order that's placed for delivery as opposed to pickup. But no, they aren't charging anything extra to set up the online store. I mean, you can definitely pay for features, for extra features, but we started just the same way you described. We had the Square Reader for years and used that as our way of accepting credit cards at market. And so because we already had that account, it seemed like an easy way to go for setting up online ordering. And I am not using it for market pickup right now because our farmers market has its own centralized like ordering system. But if we didn't have that, I definitely would be taking pre-orders through that Square system for people who want to just, have a no contact pickup.
Did they, hi, sorry, this is Ankita. I'm a researcher at Purdue. I was just wondering if they explained why they're doing a 50-cent delivery surcharge.
They
That seems
haven't.
really arbitrary.
I'm not happy about. I mean, it isn't that much, but it's annoying for them to just add fees like that. I guess they probably would justify it by the like additional software that's needed to like verify addresses and that kind of stuff. But it's not like they put it in a delivery route for you or something like that. That's something I can show you, but okay, I'm ready to share this screen back. So let me go back to Zoom. Where is it? Okay. All right, now. So this is our weekly email. We use MailChimp, which we've also used for a long time. And we have a pretty big email list in there. And so I just have, big links at the top, the different ways that people can order. The home delivery and bakery pickup are the same link. It's all through the Square store, but the farmer's market that we go to has its own ordering system. So I just have all those options where everything's located. And then I have something different each week. So this week it's something that we're doing to a project that we're donating to. I often highlight relationships with other people that we get stuff from, like I've definitely put Harold on here, who's going to present later, information about his farm and mill. So we source a lot of our grains and flour from him. And then I've been leaving this bakery safety information all through the pandemic. So yeah, that's what we do there. To manage, I'll show you a little bit about managing the back end of those orders. There's basically two options for how to handle orders that you get through your Square store. So the one option is that you just get an email every time somebody orders and you get their receipt. It looks like this. It has their information on it and what they ordered. And if they're doing delivery, then they have a box where they can put delivery instructions. I'm processing like about 100 orders a week on here. So this is not an efficient way for me to assemble orders, to print all these out and just use that. And I'm switching over now to where we have sales on our farmers market. So it not the same anymore, but for the 2 months that we were everything was completely closed, we were only baking to order. So I wanted to get totals for everything that was ordered. And then so you can download your orders. Go to orders. This is one of the other features you want to know about. There's an orders tab, and there's a way to, this is in the way here, export orders. So if you export them, you have an option to, this is what I usually use, orders since your last export. That way you don't get last week's stuff in there. I'm not going to do that right now. But then when you get the orders, they come downloaded into a spreadsheet. Move this again. And we've done all kinds of stuff, and I have a friend who writes code, so he fixed it up to do things that will help us. But this is what it looks like, the raw download. You get a line for each person's information and the total they paid, and then at some point in the spreadsheet you get a separate line for each item they ordered. And the one thing that would be useful, I think, to almost anyone doing this is something called, it's a spreadsheet function called a pivot table. So when you do it, and you can look up the command for how to do it. It's actually in the menu in the Google Sheets. But the pivot table can take certain columns from your spreadsheet and total them. So you get a total of what was ordered once you set that up. So for us, this is very, very important to know for the week how many total of each item was ordered. And you can also have the ability with this store to set inventory levels. So we don't do that for a lot of items because we're baking to order, but I could imagine if you're farming and you know that you are only going to have so much of each item, then you can do that through the store. You can set inventory levels, and you can change them at any time so that you don't oversell. That is in items, item library. There's a way to do it individually, which you click on each item and then you can adjust the stock. It's a little complicated, but there's a Square store interface through a company called Weebly, and there's your Square account, which you're already familiar with if you already processed through Square. In that end of the things, when you look at your items, you have the ability to use a spreadsheet to adjust your inventory, which I have found better. So you export your library, you get a list of every item, and all at once you can change all your stock numbers for the new week and then import it back in. So I think those are the main things that I have found really useful through playing around with this Square interface. Okay. To answer the comment question, yes, I already used Square to process credit cards before. And I don't use any other inventory management software. No, I just use these Google spreadsheets, and my spreadsheet is complicated and tailored to what I need. And I have a friend, like I say, who's a retired software coder that added a few things specifically for me to help me with my deliveries. Oh, the one thing that I will add is if you are doing home deliveries, you should know that MapQuest has a free route optimization tool on its website, and you can enter up to 26 addresses at one time with a starting and ending point. Online classes are going well. I think, especially when everyone was locked down, there was a lot of interest, especially in baking classes, which is what I happen to do. But I think for other kinds of online classes, I think people were just really wanting something to do and they were stuck at home. The baking classes, I also have done those for many years, usually in the bakery, but it's worked pretty well to take them on Zoom. I have people pick up their ingredients at the bakery if they're local. I do ship for most of the classes if they are not local. And then we just gather on Zoom. With the baking classes, they kind of work in segments, like we'll work for 40 minutes to an hour, and then you have to let the dough sit. So everyone will get off the Zoom call and we'll come back together when the next step needs to be done. That's kind of how we run it. Jessica, do we want to turn it over to Harold?
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you so much, Eric, for your presentation so far. We really appreciate it. So now we will turn it over to Harold, and he will give his presentation and talk, and then we can have some more questions and conversation at the end. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm Harold Wilkin, and our farm and mill is Janie's Farm and Janie's Mill, named after our oldest daughter who died in a car accident 19 years ago. So we farm 3,200 acres of organic or transition organic land, and we started a flour mill. We've actually been marketing 3.5 years now. I'm glad that that Eric went through all of the Squares stuff, because we use Squarespace. We're paid through Stripe. We ship through UPS. We use ShipStation. And so those things, though, are handled by the lady who's in charge of our small packaging and our mill manager. And we also have someone who does social media. So my focus today with you is going to talk more about options of marketing for a farm, and also some of the things I think are important to remember and do when you're trying to do this type of marketing. When you decide that you want to direct market to either like us with Eric, we have a lot of wholesale bakers, but then now we've delved into the retail store on our website. Like I said, we use Squarespace. During the pandemic, we went from less than 8 orders a day to over 500 at one time at our peak. We actually processed 17,000 plus orders during that time. And we were able to do it because we had all the stuff in place. If you're going to do this, you need to have your a very good website where people can order and pay. Then you need to work on your shipping, how you're going to ship. We do very little orders where we deliver to individuals. I deliver to wholesale, and that's what I'm doing today. I'm just finished, and I'm actually at the home of one of my bakers who got kicked out of a shared kitchen when COVID hit, and is now working out of his home. And he goes to farmers markets and then also does delivery. But I think it's very important, number one, you are taking on a partner when you market. When you quit doing commodities and you go to having people identify with your farm, identify with your family, identify with the things that you are doing, they're partners now. You are receiving the income, they're receiving the goods, and they're also receiving goodwill, good health. They're relying on your farm and your business to provide them with a good quality product. And they want to know about it. They want to know everything there is to know about what you're doing. During the pandemic, we were all wearing masks. We still wear masks. We still sanitize, but they wanted to know that we were doing things in a sanitary manner. They want to know how it's grown. Every week, well, let me back up. It's very important that you have a communications director. That might be you at 9:30 to midnight after the kids go to sleep, whatever, but you need to keep everybody informed on what's going on. Depending on what you're doing, if it's calving season in your livestock, or if you're planting, harvesting, if you're milling something new, it's very important that you keep your customer base up and going on everything you're doing. And we provide tours. We had to quit doing that with the health concerns, but we're hoping to open up. And now we have so many people that are in our database as far as customers, partners, that we're probably going to have like instead of a whirlwind tour, when somebody stops by, we're going to have organized tours. But they want to see what we're doing, want to see what's going on, and that is what's going to keep your customers coming back. For us, with the flour mill recipes, my gosh, where do I get sourdough starter? What recipes can I use? You got to remember, people are locked up in their houses, and they want to know what Aunt Lottie used in her, cinnamon rolls, and what Grandma's pie crust was like, and how it's made. And if you don't want to hear about irritable bowel syndrome, don't talk about gluten, because everybody who is my age, 60 or in that category, is going to tell you about their gluten experience. I feel that there's some issues with that are man-made and not part of the really good quality flour, but we won't get into that today. But people want to know how to use your product. They love to buy it. They want to buy it. They want to know, like if you're a livestock farmer, marinades, different things. How do you store it? You've got to basically go back to kindergarten. Once in a while, you'll get bakers who know, more than we do as far as the chemicals and the science of it. But mainly, you're dealing with home people who want to know how to have the best experience with the best products. And one of the most important things that I learned when I was starting to do all this was an old man told me, never put anything into a bag that you don't want to stand behind. So quality is first. Be sure to explain to your customer why you have good quality. If it's because, it was stored right, the farmer that raised it if you aren't raising it yourself, all these different things, they want to know why your product is better than one they see on the shelf. As a farmer, it took me a while to catch on to this, how to explain to people what we do and how we do it. Right now, one of the quote unquote buzzwords is regenerative farming. Well, I realize that we've been doing regenerative farming for 15 years now. And, we use rotation, so on and so forth, but you got to communicate that to the people. You want to make sure that whatever you do, you follow up with the sale. So right now we have an email that goes out 10 days after their order is shipped that says, how did you find our product? What has been your experience? And then we tell them we want to see pictures. And if you go to Janie's Mill website or to our Instagram page, boy, do we have pictures. And so that social media communications is key to being successful in this endeavor. Another thing that I wanted to mention to you as well is that once you have this store, you have this square space and you've got all these products, we ran into, we can't find yeast. Where do we get yeast? So we found a source through one of our distributors that actually sells our flour, and we offered yeast for sale on our website. I kind of think that as time goes on here, we're going to be looking for like a sugar source. We're going to be looking for other products that people want when it comes to baking. We're already talking about where we've been up until the pandemic hit. We were working on offering Challenger bakeware, and we still want to do that too. But with everything going on, we kind of had to put the brakes on all the stuff we were doing. One of the other things we're doing now is we're actually putting in a oat rolling facility in our existing building. And so by July 1st, we'll be offering rolled oats and also rough cut oats. So, you know, once you start into this online marketing and customer direct farm to market, then you can start to add products and also cooperatively work with other farmers to market. We do work with 2 other cooperative groups where they're doing a CSA type box every week. And so we deliver flour to a central location. It's basically sorted out there, and then it is shipped to individual places. So, you know, cooperation amongst farmers is also important. But I see a lot of opportunity. I don't think we're going to go back 100% to the way we were. And I think as time goes on, there's going to be more and more direct marketing, direct delivery, you know, avoiding the stores, those kind of things. And so I'm looking forward to the next adventure that we find ourselves in.
Thanks, Harold. I have a question for you. Do you find that you're shipping mostly locally or across the state, or are you shipping all over the country?
Well, when you put yourself online, you know, people from all over are, you know, ordering. One thing we did find is that we probably only got about half of the orders that we would have gotten had our shipping price been less, because we could see how many people got to you know, the checkout, and then when they saw the shipping, they canceled. We use UPS, and the one way to get UPS to come down in price is tell them you got FedEx on the other line. But that did help for a while to increase our sales. But to answer your question, we send a lot of flour to New York, California, and Oregon. So we ship mostly all over the U.S. One other thing that we're working on is we're going to more local stores. Like there's a lot, as Eric mentioned, farm stores are pretty popular. I just dropped off some samples at a farm store. I think we're up to 15 farm stores now that are offering our products to local people in their areas. So I'm now encouraging our email person to put in all of the different farm stores and where they are that are handling our products.
Harold, I really appreciated your presentation. I especially liked your point about, you know, how you're hitching yourself to the wagon of whoever you're selling with, right? And they're now a part of your story, and you've got to feel really certain about that association. I wanted to ask on the point of the farm stores. There are a number of farm stores opening up here in Southern Indiana that are wanting to sell our meat, which is awesome, and we want to see those places succeed. if they wanted to carry your flower, do they just reach out to you directly, or are you only selling to stores that are like within delivery distance for you?
No, and so right now we're marketing in a 4.5 hour arch. I don't go into Wisconsin because there's some young people up there that are getting started, and I don't want to overreach into their territory. But you know, from the state line, we go, like I said, 4.5 hours. So we go down to Cincinnati, and we're working in Indianapolis and St. Louis. We actually go to Kansas City, but I've got family out there, so that's an excuse to go see relatives. But we're also working in Ohio and Michigan. And so, you know, if somebody's in that arc and they can work with our schedule of when we can get it there, then we'll deliver it. But we're now to where we're actually shipping LTL and and UPS. UPS finally got their price down to where it's a lot better than it was.
Where are you in southern Indiana?
If you come north, straight north from Louisville on I-65, we're about 40 miles north. So we're not that far from Bloomington if we were, you know, as the crow flies, but you can't get there from here.
Yes.
Like near Seymour, farther
Yeah,
south than that?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're about 20 minutes southeast of Seymour, and that's what I was thinking. There's a store that's opening in Seymour. There's one down in Madison where we sell as well. And you know, I think this product would fit in nicely. And like the folks who sell wheat at the Seymour Farmers Market are good friends of ours, and I want to see, you know, their product, of course, but they run out regularly. You know, they're just not milling enough flour to even meet farmers market demands. So I think that there would be, market space and people who'd want to see it, that product offered. Because I think the more things these farm stores have, you know, the better. The more people are going to use them if they're that much more convenient.
Yeah, so Harold is coming to our bakery like every 3 to 4 weeks. So you certainly could like stop in, or I can hold it there. A lot of times he's driving from our place to Cincinnati. So Columbus is probably a good stopping point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, we actually have one customer in Louisville if it works out.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you thinking that through. I will share the info with those two stores and anybody else who asks, and see if there's a, you know, if they want to make a connection.
Sure. Well, thank you. So, so what have you seen a lot of change, like in you're rural southern Indiana, right? I mean, I'm rural eastern Illinois, and I'm even seeing the change in our local establishments and you know, usually the rural area is the last one to move, but you know, it seems like we get a lot of people that pick up at the mill. We do offer that. We have some bakers that come down from Chicago and purchase from us, who don't want to wait for a truck, or they want a Monday chill afternoon or whatever, and they'll just drive down an hour. We're an hour and a half south of the Circle Interchange in Chicago, so you know, we're a nice drive into the country. And then they come and see a wheat field, you know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we're Southeast Indiana is yeah, quite rural, and the majority of our customers are either people who have lived in cities and got used to having all sorts of products to choose from, right? And they could get whatever food they wanted to match their values. And they've been really excited to find us and farmers like us because now they don't have to drive back to the cities, right? Or they're people who still remember what good food tastes like. You know, so maybe they've never left, or they came back home on purpose, and they want to be in a rural space, but they remember what grandma's chicken tasted like, and the store isn't the same thing. I'm still trying to convince the bakers around here to start using good flour, though. So I'm gonna push them onto you guys, because we have a lot of real sugary white bread at our farmers markets.
Have them talk to me.
Okay.
I'll get over that.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Eric. I will do that.
I kind of have a general question that I think between actually all three of you who were just talking, it's been sort of something that's on my mind. And I think, Harold, you kind of alluded to this a bit, where it's like, yes, people are buying more flour now, but soon they're going to want sugar and butter and all the other pieces. And so are y'all finding that folks are coordinating a bit more to try and then maybe put together like aggregated boxes or come together at a farm store so that like I as a consumer could then get my full plate in one spot?
That is happening. That's those cooperative farmer groups that we're talking about. In the case of us, if somebody is shipping, if we're shipping somebody 15, I think our average box goes out at somewhere around 16 to 18 pounds. It doesn't take much more to put a pound of yeast in there, or 2 pounds of powdered sugar or whatever. I'm trying to find a good source of high quality sugar. To me, I want to find the farmer who is raising it that I feel comfortable with, that has the same values we do. And then we'll talk about the product they've got. That's, to me, you want a quality product, but you want a quality person you're working with too. So.
Cool, thanks, I appreciate that. We just got our first batch from you guys actually for home cooking, or home baking, I should say. So I'm pretty excited to make a sandwich.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm not there yet on providing other stuff. I am selling a lot more flour than I used to, so I mill my own whole grain flour when I get the sifted flours from Harold, and it's his grain anyway that I'm milling for the most part. And I always sold flour by request, but I went ahead and put it on our online store, and we were selling a huge amount for a while. And then I thought, with people having trouble getting yeast, I went ahead and ordered it from one of my wholesale distributors that works mostly with food service. They're sitting on all this yeast, and the grocery stores can't get it. So I took in a bunch and was repacking it into smaller bags and selling it. But I haven't really gone beyond that with like other stuff. But I think it is worth thinking about. I think a lot of us are reluctant to get on and include things that aren't, that we're not growing, or that we're not personally involved in producing. And I think it is actually smart to think a little bigger than that.
Well, Eric knows that there's certain grains that we can't raise in central Illinois. And so I've got a farmer out in western Nebraska who is raising einkorn wheat and has a beautiful product. And he's a wonderful family. His kids are coming back to the farm. He's organic for the right reasons. And it's like, I'll work with him all day long, because a baker wants quality. If it's mediocre stuff that they can't use, there's no sense to even have it. So I've learned that if I can find the right people in the right places that I can't do, then I'll work with them and get product from them. And in turn, I'm providing an opportunity for them to get to a better market as well.
I'll just add, since you love me and Kita, thank you. The reluctance that Eric spoke of is where we're at, and I think we just have to get over that because people want convenience. I want convenience when I go to the grocery store. I expect them to have all the things that I want. And so we're looking right now, Hoosier Harvest Market just expanded. They have a food hub, right, which is awesome for aggregation. And it's been focused on the Indy area, the Greenfield area. Batesville is southeast of Indy, like halfway between Indy and Cincinnati. And still a bit of a drive for us, but they just opened a sub hub, which is a great term, I think, a sub food hub. And they don't have any well, they want more local producers on that. And so we're looking really closely at that. That seems like that might be a good fit for us because it still feels like we're feeding a rural community, which is a core value for us. But it would let us reach people who aren't going to come to the farmer's market for
Yeah.
whatever reason. They work Saturday mornings, they've got young kids and they're too busy or whatever it is. It could be a way that we could offer a more convenient one-stop shop option,
Yeah.
but not have to do that ourselves. And also feel like the sorts of farmers who are selling into Hoosier Harvest Market have a shared sense of value and goals and quality.
Yeah.
But it's scary.
I mean, so, like, what's kind of interesting about what all three of you have touched on is it's at the end of the day, yes, it's also about convenience, but it's also about trust. And so one of the things, so I build technology, and so that's like I'm here mostly to like hear about your experiences with tech, but then also think about like the role of it in farming and food distribution. And the part that always throws me off is that like the thing that's difficult with tech is that it's outside of the storytelling, it's like it's so abstract. I can't shake your hand and chat with you and just like learn about what you're up to and develop that relationship. And I imagine it's similar when, you know, then you're trying to find other people to group up with. But at the same time, I think there's this potential, because if I already work with you or I trust you specifically, if you can then vouch for others, then, you know, I no longer need the technology to speak for other people because I trust you, and via your website, I'm down to like buy this because I know that she's gonna go find other farmers who have shared values and are likely sourcing and practicing in ways that I trust are good for my health and livelihood or whatever. So I don't know. It's kind of cool to hear your perspectives on this. So thank you for indulging my question.
And this is Jody. I have a question. In terms of inventory management, and I think that's where tech has sort of been failing our smaller mid-sized farmers. You know, if they have to, Eric's got to go and log into the Bloomington platform to go do that, and then he's got to manage his own inventory. And just like farmers selling in 4 different counties have to deal with 4 different home rules of Indiana County health departments, you now have this complication of managing inventory. And so, you know, there are some technologies that are trying to deal with that problem, but if not everybody's using them, just doesn't help. I don't know, I'm just sort of posing that question and sort of asking the farmers who are online, is sort of inventory management, is that an issue for you in terms of what you're doing?
Well, from a raw grain standpoint, I'm glad I overproduced a year ago. So that way I had plenty of grain, you know, for going through what we went through this spring. You know, and that's that's the first step in quality, is keeping the grain in good condition and then getting it to the mill and then milling it. And so, you know, we have to keep, we keep our mill at 55 degrees. It gets warmer during the daytime, but we try and keep it cool so that the flour stays fresh. And so there's, I mean, yes, there's things with inventory, but again, you know, you almost got to have this instantaneous order to delivery system where you don't have it sitting around for a long time. And again, you know, that's something that needs to be worked out with, like me, when I deliver to a baker, I got to make sure that they've got a place to store it where it's cool, and or they've got to, you know, deal with and make sure that it stays good to the next delivery.
Yeah, I don't have a great solution for managing multiple locations, which is I think what you're getting at. It is labor intensive to go in and see that stuff is moving faster this week on my market site than it is on my online store, and then shift inventory from one to the other. They're not connected, so I have to manually do that from one to the other, and I think other people are dealing with that too. Unless you actually, I don't even know if I was looking into this. With the Square site, I can operate multiple different locations, but I suspect that I cannot share inventory between them, which would be what you'd want to do.
It's funny, at least in my research, I've been finding that through talking to people about this problem, I keep seeing sort of the online store, Google spreadsheets or some sort of spreadsheet to then be the glue between your in-person market and your digital market. And it's surprising that at least a lot of the tools that I look at don't necessarily bridge that gap. But I think, Eric, you used this phrase earlier that was, you know, your Google spreadsheet was very complicated and does exactly what you need. And I wonder if maybe that's why that functionality doesn't exist. At least this is what we're trying to figure out. Is like, why doesn't stuff like that exist? And it's because like what you want is actually fairly personal and specific. But
Yeah, it
I don't
is.
know if I'm overcomplicating it though.
It is true. I mean, and I think the case of Square, it's just set up for like a restaurant where you get an order, you print the ticket, you put it together, and it goes out. It's not really set up for a market type situation where you're going to collect 50 or 100 orders and do them all at once. Yeah, so you will understand what this means, but I have a friend who wrote basically a several piece JavaScript that reorganizes all those orders in a much more sensible way from how they come in the Google spreadsheet. And it lists all the delivery addresses by latitude and longitude. It does all kinds of stuff that's really helpful for me. But I don't know what that would have cost. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know that I could have afforded to hire a programmer to do that. He was just, wanted to help out and spent several weeks refining this script.
That's pretty delightful.
Yeah, that's a good
awesome.
friend.
Yeah.
I told him you should
Also,
market that.
Eric, you said that you're talking about, how do you get all these things to talk to each other and manually moving inventory? Maybe Jessica, you remember this. So this is one of 9 webinars that is going on. And I think one of the earlier ones, maybe it was with the Beckers. I forget who though. I forget if they were using Shopify or something else, because it specifically let them control different sites in a way that Square did not. But it costs. So, there's a price to everything, right? But that was something that I noticed that was helpful to them. But it's still not going to let you manage that inventory if the farmer's market also has its own online marketplace that you have to deal with or if you're using, Market Wagon or something like that, right? That's only for your own things that are under your own umbrella, like you're at your farmer's market in person or your deliveries or your pickups. So I don't know. We've got all those videos online. If people want to look back at them, I could try to figure out which one it was. But yeah, I don't think there's a catch-all solution yet.
And I was just wondering, that last mile delivery is really hard for everyone. And as farmers try and stay in diversified market channels, whether they're online, in-person farmers markets, retail, wholesale sort of things, if they are, it's a lot of work to also distribute into these, a lot of time, spent on the road that maybe you don't want to spend that time on the road. And I'm just wondering if any of these other sort of gig economy products are helping any, like Uber or other systems that people have employed to try and deal with that last mile delivery and not have to deal with that as a farmer, or maybe even a larger distributor regionally based that has helped with that.
I have not worked with the Market Wagon or some of the other delivery services. I can't answer that. I know some people who do, but
I think in a more urban area, we would be definitely able to use something more like that. But I've got the Uber app, and I throw it up once in a while and just say, Uber, find me an Uber, and they'll go, there's no one in this area. So, you know, as time goes on, there may be something that will make itself available. But right now, we would have to be the ones to develop it. And maybe that'll be something we'll do. I have a
Yeah.
retired teacher that I'm married to that just retired recently, and I thought about buying her a van and filling it with boxes of flour and just tell her to go distribute it for me. But that isn't a concept that you can replicate.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, you know, if there's a there's redistribution systems, if there's a spot, and then Grubhub or, you know, B-Town menus here in Bloomington, you know, could deal with the delivery, especially of small orders, food orders that are sort of qualified to deal with food.
We've been seeing a couple of different approaches that folks are taking, everything from Eric's MapQuest, make my own delivery route, all the way through to then like folks coming together to have someone pick up and drop off. At least on our end, one of the things that we're interested in doing is like building things like that. And so if y'all really want delivery routing tools, I would be super keen on like chatting more about that down the line.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I know we're out of time, sort of I think some of the parts of the food system that are broken that we can certainly point to, access and market channels and things like that. And it reminds me of the healthcare system where, you know, I've moved around a lot in my life and I'm working, you know, my health records are in, you know, probably 5 different states and a couple of countries, and I have no idea how much radiation I've been exposed to in x-rays, for example. But none of their systems talk to each other. And so, for example, when IU Health started a massive takeover of the Indiana healthcare system, they had to actually bring all these online systems into alignment so that when I lived in West Lafayette, that I could talk to my records here in Bloomington, even though they're both IU Health. So thinking the same thing in farming and these sort of regional farmers tools that if we don't have systems that are talking to one another, it's just going to continue to inhibit the consumer experience and the consumer onboarding of being able to really full-heartedly support, especially in the wholesale world, because I work in the wholesale a lot with this USDA grant we have. And so if farmers can scale and have the ability to do so, they're severely limited by how buyers can get their product and access those systems. So I just wanted to throw that out there because the user experience, you know, the healthcare system is, as we're very sure of now, it's not really a high functioning system, and how we might be able to avoid that disaster on the early end. But I do see that a lot of software has, most of the money in local and regional food system innovation has been in software already, not really on the farm, and equipment for mid-scale processing, for example.
I see the processing as a real bottleneck that does need to be addressed, and especially now with the last 3 months and the experience in the livestock markets, you know,
yeah, it's
somehow we need to get government regulations down to where
they're
smaller
scale
producers
appropriate.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Are you seeing similar bottlenecks on the mill side of things, Harold?
Not so much that, but you know, the most important or the most expensive thing for us is the processing and the labor and all those kind of things, and the insurance, and you know, it's really easy to raise, hard to get from the farmer's bin to the consumer's mouth, and it's a very expensive. So what I found early on when I was looking at all this is that scaling, you have to scale to a certain size in milling in order to keep the lights on and keep things moving. And if you don't have that volume, you kind of sit in this area where there's no profitability, and actually you can go backwards and have to quit. But same thing happens in everything is that we've been attuned to millions of pounds or millions of bushels, or something that is more almost what do I was? It becomes so expensive that it's just a novelty. So one of the things I was going to mention when Nightfall said something about Hoosier harvest, we may end up doing some processing for Indiana grains where we can mill it and then they can sell it as an Indiana grain. But we have all this money in processing equipment that we can do that and then ship it back, because the milling is the most expensive and laborious part of the project. So we may be doing something with Hoosier Harvest Market. Langland Farms, Greensburg, Indiana, Patty Fisher, she's a contact.
Well, I think Oak Hawk and his wife, their farm, they're going to buy Anna Welch's milling equipment. So I don't know if you had a talk with him, or you know Anna, right?
Yeah, and
Anna
Welch.
Oh, Carthage Mills?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So someone is going to buy the equipment.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've done some work with her.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to jump on and say thank you to everybody. I just want to be respectful of everybody's time and day, and I know we're all busy and we've reached our 1 hour. So I wanted to say thank you to Harold and Eric for taking time out of your day and presenting for us and sharing all of this great information with us. And it sounds like maybe some connections have been made, which is very exciting, and moving forward. And everybody who participated in asking questions, thank you so much for keeping the conversation and the dialogue going. And there'll be a link sent out after this is recorded or put up online so that you can go back and watch it along with all the other webinars we've had so far. So thank you everybody for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks everybody. Take care.
Bye.